Good evening. My name is Michelle Williams, and I am in week 3 of Leadership 300. Today, I am here to discuss the relationship between leadership and power. Power is a person's ability to control activities of individuals, whereas leadership is the ability to inspire people voluntarily. By definition, power is the ability to exercise control, whereas leadership is the ability to influence people to follow your instructions. Power is not dependent upon someone in order to have it, whereas leadership is dependent upon the amount of power you're able to obtain. There are 5 powers that I would like to speak to you about. The first being legitimate, basically saying that your place in the organization gives you the amount of power you have. Then I want to speak about expert power, people who know systems, codes, so forth and so on. They have a power in that particular subject matter. However, their power dies down very quickly because as soon as that knowledge is not relevant anymore, they lose their power. Thirdly, I would like to speak to referent power, and that talks about the different relationships that you've cultivated within an organization to help you navigate it. Then I want to talk about coercive power, which is basically like someone who has the ability to fire you. If you don't do what they say, they can make a life altering decision to affect how you move or go. And then finally, there's a reward power. Like, say, for example, there are coaches who recruit um, athletes, and they can offer certain scholarships um, based on your talent. So they can kind of basically offer an incentive: come play for us, and I can give you X amount of scholarship power. So I would consider that like reward power. Then I want to speak about the difference between power and influence. They both refer to naturally possessed traits, and I'm going to go to a definition for this. They both refer to naturally possessed traits that follow as a consequence of authority. The difference lies in how these two approach leadership and encourage a team to complete their work. Power, they force people to complete a task, whereas influence, they influence people to voluntarily complete a task. Power is force while influence is voluntary. Power uses threats and gets punishment to get the work done, whereas influence uses positive affirmations and encouragement to get someone to complete work. Little transparency is needed to get things done when you have power. However, when you have influence, it definitely takes a different approach to get your subordinates to do what you need them to do. Um, Power is more so trickles downward. It's like a hierarchy. Power comes down. You know what I'm saying? Leadership goes up. And then finally, because we only have 2 minutes and I'm already into 3 minutes and 30 seconds, leaders directly and indirectly influence productivity of their employees in several ways. Leaders who take advantage of power delegate tasks, and sometimes they overburden their employees, leading to decreased productivity. And what I mean by that, and that was an excerpt from an article I had read. But what I mean, a reason why I wanted to discuss that last is that sometimes power can be a bad thing, because when you just delegate without having any realization of how what you're at, like the ability for the real ability for one to do what you're actually asking them to do, sometimes creates less productive people. But people who actually influence and get people to voluntarily complete tasks, they're not burdening people with, you got to do this A B C D. They're like, okay, we got one common goal. How can we get this done? What are you good at? What are you good at? What are you good at? And they're basically trying to get the team to work together and actually get the best out of people voluntarily. Whereas power, it's like, I'm just going to make you do it. Whereas influence and leadership, like influence through leadership, is basically like, you can do this. I want you to give me what your best effort is, what your best abilities are, so that I can place you in a team where you're going to be the most effective so we can reach our common goal. I thank you for your time this evening. I hope I answered all your questions that were needed for the assessment. Thank you and good night.